This is a part 2 of my FortiWeb video where we actually are going to set up the FortiWeb. In the previous video, I actually configured the FortiGate, I configured the FortiWeb, and we did actually try to open the FortiGates on the Windows server. I also told you that we're going to be installing IIS just for those who want to test out FortiWeb and see how it works. Normally, you don't really need to install IIS if you already have your web application that you're trying to use FortiWeb to protect. But this is all included, inclusive training. So I'm just going to make sure that every basic thing that needs to be covered is actually covered here. So here I was having issue the last time with the Chrome browser with my FortiGate. It wasn't opening my FortiGate correctly. However, I was able to install Edge, and I did notice that Edge was able to um, open the FortiGate correctly. So I want to show you. I do have the Edge already installed. Waiting for this to open. While this is loading, remember, I'm going to show you how to install IIS. There's also like a bonus for those who doesn't know how to install IIS. The FortiGate is currently running. Yep, it's currently running. The firewall is currently running. Like I said, this is basically for GNS3. It's the same thing on the production on a hardware physical device. It's also the same thing if you're using it on a VM like EXIOS or Hyper-V. But this is more of a simulation. So for those who are just seeing GNS3 for the first time. So this is my Edge browser. That looks like Internet Explorer. Let me see my Edge. Where did it go? There it is. That's my Edge. I don't want to use the Explorer. I do not need the Explorer. So I'm going to be using Edge to open the FortiGate and the FortiWeb, and I'm going to show you how to actually protect your web application using FortiWeb. So of course, I'm going to start. I'm going to install IIS, like I said. Let's see. So I'm going to log into my FortiGate. Logging into the firewall. Now, as you can see, it's basically opening. So I'm just going to click later. I was having this issue on my Chrome, but basically it's opening on my Firefox. But I'm not going to be using the browser on this server for that. I actually want to just I'm going to be using my PC browser. So, but what I want to do is I'm just going to add the role of IIS, install IIS service. I'm actually going to need DNS as well because playing with some DNS actually might be fun for this FortiWeb. So I do have the IIS. Let me see if there's anything else I want to install here. I do think that is all. There's the web cover. I don't think I need that. So I'm just gonna click next and finish up my role. I think I need HTTP redirection. Um, every other thing can remain the same for now. Let me see if I need something else. I might need basic authentication as well. Um, so I need the authentication. Windows authentication might also command the. Okay, let me just have that install. Let me also install this. In fact, let me just install everything here. Okay, so that's all I need for my IIS. I don't think I need anything else. Next, and then my DNS also is going to install as well. So those are the tools I need on my IIS server. So I'm going to use a browser. And I'm going to go into my FortiGates. And I'm also going to go into my FortiWeb as well. Okay, great. Now in the last video we did set up the network, and it's still set up the same way. We have the WAN, we have the LAN, and those are all we have. And then we created a static route which allowed this to basically have access to the internet. As you can see, I can get out to the internet. So then we also created did we create a new policy? Let's see. Yes, we did create a policy that allowed traffic from the LAN to the internet, and you can see there's some traffic there. We also created some policy that allowed traffic coming in from the WAN to the LAN. I can't remember why we did this, but we did that for a reason in the previous video. I think that those are the two policies that we do have at the moment. Now on my FortiWeb, let me just click on done here. At the moment, so all I have is we created an IP address on the interface, which you can also edit and then change the IP address whatever you want it to be. And then we created the routes, which also gives us access to the internet as well. So basically we can actually get outside to the internet, but beside that we haven't done anything on the FortiWeb. Now let me just take a look at my IIS. Okay, we're still having that going on. Now let's prep the FortiWeb installation. Now this, let me go back to the GNS3. Oh, the IIS just finished. Good. Now one thing that is very important to know when you're setting up FortiWeb is, let me notate this. Here in the network here, I'm using the LAN, I'm using 177.0/24. That's what I'm using in my LAN, and of course my FortiWeb is .3. My server here is .2, and then my FortiGate is .1. And you wonder, why did I just use .2 here? It doesn't matter, whichever one you want to use doesn't really matter. Here in my WAN, I'm using yeah, I think that's what I'm using. I can verify that. On the interface, I'm using 67.239. So here we could just say .239, and then on the cloud end we're using .10. So this is how everything is notated, as in how the subnet is designed. So we're using the 172 here, we're using the 192 here. Now your IP address scheme is definitely going to be different from mine, but this is just to show you how it's going to be done. Now what we're going to do on the FortiGate, there are two things you're going to need on the FortiGate when you're actually creating when you're using the FortiWeb to manage your web application. You're going to need, number one, you're going to need to create a virtual IP. Number two, you're then going to need to create your firewall policy. So the virtual IP will be used for the real server. So what we're going to do is going to go back to the FortiGate, go to policy and objects, create a virtual IP. Now I'm going to create a virtual IP called, let's say, playgroup. Now the one IP, which is your external IP, this time I want to use let's say that is my public IP that I want to use. I'm basically doing a port forwarding, and I'm actually going to map this to the private IP. Now let's see. Now notice this IP here doesn't really exist. This is basically all I have in my network. I have 177.1.2 and .3. I do not have anything called 177.33, or let's say 177.54. Do not have any IP address called this. This is how you will set up your virtual IP. So what we're basically doing is this: when your traffic is coming from the internet and it's trying to come from this IP, translate it to this, or just basically translate the public IP into this private IP. That's what we're trying to do. We're calling that virtual IP playgroup or playground. Now click OK. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to policy. Now we're going to create a policy. I'm going to call this okay, then this is basically going to be coming from the WAN and then going to the LAN, and I'm going to say any traffic coming from the WAN, I'm going to notice this, it's going to this specific destination, which is actually my virtual IP. This time around, I'm basically saying if the traffic is using HTTP or HTTPS, I also want to enable ping so I can actually test. Now I'm going to accept all traffic coming that matches this. Then I'm going to turn off NAT. I do not need NAT. And then if you're using security profile, please turn them on. If not, just leave them off. I'm going to turn on all session, enable the policy, and click OK. Now that is my third policy. Notice this. So I do have the third policy. So if I go to my command prompt, and then let me try and ping the IP. Notice at this point nothing is replying. That's okay. Let's ping the public IP as well. 249, I think that's what I used. Notice at this point nothing is replying. Let's check again. What did we use? 249, nothing is replying. That's fine. Now what we're going to do is to go to the FortiWeb. On the FortiWeb, we're going to create a virtual IP here as well. The virtual IP on your FortiWeb must match the mapped IP, which is your LAN IP here on the FortiGate. So this same IP that I used here, which is 177.54, will also be used here. So here I'm going to go to network, virtual IP, create, and I'm going to create the virtual IP 177.54. Pardon me. The name. I'm going to use a /32 to just reference that same IP. I'm going to call this playground. Then I'm going to be using my port 1, which is actually in the same 177 subnets. So if I go back to my command prompt and I try to ping that 177, notice now I can actually reach it. So basically now I can ping the 177 and I can also ping the 249 simply by just creating this virtual IP. Now, one thing that you need to note is, beside creating the virtual IP on the FortiGate, which you can basically watch your hit count to show you that there's traffic going in there, and then creating the policy, you can see that there's traffic also going in there as well. There is nothing else to do on the FortiGate side. You're basically done. So this here, this ICMP is actually how we're able to ping. If ICMP is not turned on, you probably will not be able to ping. So this is only allowing ICMP, HTTP, and HTTPS. So what we've done so far is to create a virtual IP that matches what we have created here on the virtual IP here. But notice we're not referencing the public anymore on the FortiWeb. We're only referencing this map IP. And this map IP did not, or is not going to be the same as the server. We're going to create the server real IP. The IP we're just basically using is a virtual IP. It doesn't really exist, but it's part of your subnet IP. So we just pick a particular range in the subnet, which has to be something that connects these two devices together. Notice what connects them together is this 177. That's why you see me using one of those range. If you are using an IP block that is actually already full, you can actually expand it, or you could just connect the FortiGate and your FortiWeb together directly, and then connect your FortiWeb down to the LAN. So that will give you some IP that you can actually use. So in my scenario here, this is the simplest thing to do. So I'm going to go to my FortiWeb. So I'm done with the virtual IP part of the FortiWeb. The next thing I need to do is, now that my IIS is complete, I'm going to have to launch the IIS. There it is. At this point, I can actually close this. I don't need it. Now, I have the IIS, and here I'm going to create. By default, I think it basically has a sample web page. There it is, which you can basically just browse on the port 80. So let's browse that page. Okay, you can see basically I can browse that page. Now this is the page we want to see when we open our web browser um, with the public IP address. Now, also one other thing we could do is we could on the DNS server we created the A record pointing to that the name, resolving the name and to the IP address. That's what I meant to say. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So for now, we're going to be using the IP address. I'm going to minimize this, and the IIS for now is okay. So we're going to go back to the FortiWeb and then create the server object. The first thing you go is go to server object, go to server and create a virtual server. We're going to create a virtual server. I'm going to call this server virtual server play group underscore virtual server. I like this naming convention, so I know that that's actually a virtual server. Then I'm here, click create, and then here, remember we created the virtual IP earlier, and the virtual IP we created was, so if I over my mouse here, you can see that the IP address is 177.5. That's actually the virtual IP we created earlier. Notice I'm using a /32, which is basically specifying a single device. So I'm going to select that particular virtual IP as the IP for my virtual server. I'm going to click OK. Notice I'm still not using the real server IP, which is 177.2. So here, once you're done, you click OK. The next thing you do is go to server pool. On server pool, click create new. So here I'm going to say playground. I like to use the same name, so it's very easy for me to understand or identify what I'm actually creating. Playgroup or playground, playground underscore pool. Click OK. Notice my type is reverse proxy, and I'm using a single server. I'm not using server balancer because I'm not having multiple server that I'm balancing across. It's just a single server, and then I'm going to click create new. Now this time in the server pool, this is the place where you will specify the real server IP. So my real server IP address is 177.2, which is basically this physical server here. So now notice that, and I'm using port 80. Why? If you go back to my IIS, you will notice I'm basically using port 80 here, and that is exactly the same port number I'm using here. I'm going to show you how to do the one for 443. I'm going to show you how to use the one for a different port number. So we're going to create different web application anyway, but let's start with this one first. Click OK, and then click OK as well. Now notice that we've created virtual server, we've created server pool. The next thing we then need to create is policy. It's a very straightforward process. We create policy and then click create new. This is going to create a new policy for us. So here we're going to say our policy name is playground underscore policy. And then we're using the deployment mode, we're using the single server. And remember, that's what we chose earlier on our server pool. And then the virtual server type, the virtual server name, remember I used the one playground underscore vs, which is virtual server. For the server pool, playground underscore pool, so it's very easy to identify. And now HTTP service, I'm basically using port 80, which is basically this one here, the predefined one. Now every other thing can just remain the same for now. Now one other thing I'm going to do, which is going to be this one, which is very important, the web protection profile. I'm going to show you what you can do. But for now, I'm going to leave that blank. There are web protection profile that you can use. Notice this. I'm going to show you how to do that. For now, let's leave it blank and click OK. So now we do have our server created. So I'm going to go to the web protection profile so I can have that. This is the recommended one. Of course, the extended one is much more has more signature than the standard one. So if you want to use the standard one being the recommended one, that's fine. If you want to use the extended one, that's fine as well. So here I'm just going to clone this, and I'm going to call this Okay, we call this playground standard protection. Doesn't really matter what name you want to call it. So here I'm using the standard signature. You can actually change the signature as well. So if you go to edit here, this is a profile that basically protects your web. So this is using the standard signature. This is using the standard protection. You can basically also modify that under here, web protection. It should be here, signature. And then you see this is the standard protection here. You can also clone that, and you can call that any name you want. Normally, by default, you can't really edit the predefined one, but you can edit the one you clone. So let me call this. Okay. So that basically will create our own custom signature, as long as the name is not too long to create one. Great. So we do have about 59 signature disabled and so on like that. So here you can actually edit, and then you can look at what is enabled. You have cross-site scripting, you have cross-site scripting extended, you can turn it on. You have false positive mitigation, you have your action, what do you want it to do. You also have your block period, you have the severity, you have the trigger policy, and so on like that. You also have the detection threshold, you have Trojan, known exploit, and so on like that. You also have the sensitivity level. You can actually customize this how you want it to behave. So for now, I'm just going to leave it as this. I'm going to go back to my policy. My web protection profile is what I'm actually trying to do here, which is basically currently blank. I'm going to edit that, and then going to choose the web protection profile that I created just now, which is, scroll down, this one. Now please notice when I chose this, I actually did not remember to change the signature. The default signature it's using is the standard signature, so I can actually change it from here. Scroll down and choose the signature. So basically this is my custom signature, so that's whatever changes I make to this is basically going to apply to it. So here everything that you can actually change, they are all written here. We're going to look through some of this in the future tutorial, but for now we're still going to just leave it as this. So the advanced protection, you basically have the custom policy, you have the predefined advanced protection, you can as well customize that. You have the cross-site reference, something I can't remember what that is. Basically you can actually just also create that as well. You have the SQL and cross-site scripting, syntax-based detection, and so on like that. So all these are things that you can actually customize to your taste. I'm just going to click OK. I already changed the basic thing I want to change, so everything looks good here. Click OK. Now we're going to then test to see if our policy is working. I'm going to go back to my FortiGate. One thing that you'll notice is that we haven't really accessed the web server here. So we're going to access the web server here using the IP address of the web server, which is this. Notice that basically opens the IIS page. Now you might be wondering, is that really the page? Yes, it is the page. To test if it's working, this is my simplest test that I do. I just do a /cmd.exe. When I do a /cmd.exe, if this gives me a fall for if it doesn't give me the page is blocker, that basically means it's not going through the FortiWeb. Now please notice something, that I'm basically using the internal IP, which basically means I'm actually inside the network. So because I'm inside the network, let me show you my topology again. because I'm actually inside this network here, it's actually not going to run the policy through the FortiWeb. But if I'm coming from outside the internet and I'm accessing this server using the public IP, remember that we created a virtual IP, which is this one for the server. So if I'm coming using the public IP and I'm able to access the server, then if I try the same thing, it would actually go through the FortiWeb. So let me try to see if I can access the server. 249. Let me see. Okay, so now we tried the 170.17.67.249, which is the public IP. And as you can see, this is basically open. Now you remember earlier I did try it on the private IP and it's also open, but when I try to put in an SQL injection, notice what I have here basically tells me cmd. I basically type in a command scripting, not SQL, scripting. Now notice this tells me file not found, but when I tried on the public IP, what happens? You notice this? It tells you web page blocked, and this is basically blocked basically by FortiWeb. So tells you the client IP, tells you the attack ID, the message ID. We can actually search this attack ID as well on the FortiWeb. So here I'm going to go to the FortiWeb, and I'm going to go to log and report, log access. I think it should be under attacks, and then here you can see this is the attack. And if I open this attack, notice this is what we have here. Let me change that from cmd.exe to, let's say, bat.exe. Notice, okay, that one, let me say, let's say jet.bat. Okay, jet.bat. Notice that. Now if I try this and then I refresh that, I'm looking for jet.bat. Notice that. Of course, you can see the threat level is different for cmd and for jet.bat. If I open the CMD attack, you basically would see the time of the attack, the policy, the services, the host IP, notice the string, the virtual IP of the server, which we created on the FortiGate. Then notice the URL, notice the method. It will tell you what it is. You can basically click on that injection and get more details on that. That will take you to the website and give you more details on that. And you can see this basically tells you it's a command injection. That's what I was trying to say, not SQL injection, command injection. So and then you can basically scroll down and still see more information about the attack. It will tell you the details about it and then give you all the things you need to know. Now, one of the things I was talking about earlier was the attack ID. What's it called? The this is the signature ID here. Let's see, do we have anything? Now notice the action that was taken. And notice also currently the monitor mode is basically disabled. Monitor mode basically just allow those things to go through while it's basically taking monitoring them. But if it's disabled, basically what happens is that it basically will be doing the real job it's supposed to do. Now notice this here. It tells you the client is at risk, which basically shows suspicious level. The country, it will tell you which country it's originating from. In this case, because I'm basically doing this locally, it's not giving me the country. It will tell you the vulnerability. You could actually open this and see more, but of course it's going to take you to a live website. I guess it will basically open that page. Now while that is opening, you have the attack. It tells you it's a potential reflective file download RFD attack. That's the type of attack it is. That's a signature number. Notice this signature is different from the previous signature number. It tells you what it is, and then you can see more details about the packet and about the cookies, and definitely the dates, the policy, and the services that it's using now. Let's quickly go to that. What's it called? That the vulnerability component we opened earlier. Now notice it tells us it's using vulnerable and outdated components, and then you can read more about this. You can look at the details of this, the description, how to prevent it, the scenario, the attack scenarios. You can read all about this, because FortiWeb basically gives you more of those information that actually can be very helpful. Sometimes they basically will take you to, let me see which one this is. So this here um, is basically the message. You can basically what's it called? Um, Permits this particular what's it called URL if that was a false positive, so you can just basically use add exception that will just allow that URL to pass through. Let me just show you that briefly. um, let's see, where is it here? So notice it's still being blocked, and then if I let me refresh, notice it's still being blocked. Now if I add an exception, so that is basically going to add exception. Notice is adding the exception under this the policy I created. Now notice the type is basically under URI. You have the element type as a full URL or just URI. So just going to leave it as URI for now. Just click on OK. Now what you will see is I've added an exception now to that policy. So what you will see now is when I come back here and I refresh, notice it's now allowing it to pass through. Basically, I think I'm going to stop the video here. I'm going to create a part 3 showing more web service, more as adding more web servers to my IIS. I'm going to, what's it called? I'm going to ensure that some of the what's it called? Some of the policies that we have here, what's it called? I'm going to create more policy. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm going to create more policy. We're going to test it with different web application. We're going to create for HTTPS. We're going to create for multiple web service using the same IP address and so on like that. So this is going to be a multi-series video, like I've said. And I intend to ensure that you have the basic information that is needed to actually set up your FortiWeb from scratch without any issue. Please let me know if you do have any question, if you have any difficulty following this tutorial. Please comment if you actually enjoyed the video and you were able to get this, or as in this deployed easily without issue. I'm going to be showing you in my next video. I'm going to be working on working on a GNS3 as we've been doing. I'm going to be basically working on AXSI host, but it's basically going to have the same IP address information. It's going to be the same thing, so nothing's going to change with the IP, nothing's going to change with the policies and the naming we're using. It's basically just going to be a different platform. All right. Please let me know if you have any question, and if there are things that you would like to know or you would like to learn. Please put that in the comment section below, and I would like to actually engage with you and see how we could actually look through some of those concerns together. Thank you so much for viewing. Have a lovely day.